And we're live. Here we go.
We're live?
We are live. Welcome back to Spoken Openness podcast number 9.
Number 9.
I
I like 9.
9's great.
It's a great number.
We can talk about that. I will say I can hear all of you out there who watched this whispering, "Why this was supposed to be last week? Why is number 9?" We apologize. We've kind of fell through on our 2 a week last week, but that is totally okay.
It's okay.
Hopefully we can do
good
3.
They're whispering and not shouting.
Yeah, thanks everyone out there for whispering. I can hear all of you. Sounds like a snake's party out there.
Yeah, Snake's Party. That's fun. What are you drinking?
Coffee, classic.
From Chiapas,
Nice.
southern Mexico.
Nice. Is that a coffee that you regularly have? Is that a favorite?
Yeah, coffee from Chiapas is famous all over the world.
I had some actually at one point,
Nice.
and it was very good. I feel like I'm one of those people, but if I had if I have some beans, some coffee beans, I'll drink it. It's pretty good. I'll get another bag from somewhere else. I'll drink it. Pretty good. I have a hard time distinguishing between coffees if I have like one bag and then I drink it and then I get a new bag. If I had like 3 different ones and I brewed them all and I had them next to each other, I could taste the difference and I would be like, I like that one the most. But practically, it's all pretty good. It's all pretty good coffee.
It's all coffee. Yeah, exactly. I'm a little bit good at that with wine on a very, very basic level. But I don't know about coffee. I feel the same way. It's all just either good or bad cold coffee.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused by the people who say they can accurately taste all the wine and know all the difference. It's like, to a certain degree, I think that's possible, but I also know about those studies where they put like food coloring in white wine and they tasted red wine and they were saying completely different things about the wine. Have you ever had that thing
It's always exaggerated.
Yeah. Have you ever had that thing where you were going to take a sip of something and in your head, you thought it was like one drink, but then when you sipped it, it was not what... There's like a confusing... Like I can remember thinking that I had water or... I forget what it was. It was either I thought I had water and it was orange juice, or I thought it was orange juice and it turned out to be water. But just that like first 6 seconds, you're so confused and you're not sure what... Have you ever done that, or no? Is that just me?
Yesterday I tried a cocktail it was like I would have never voluntarily ordered that. It was like mezcal with guarana and chili, like a chili sauce, but non-spicy, and then it had a ginger beer. It was like a cocktail mix, and
That's
then they
crazy.
shake it.
Yeah.
It was a pretty crazy taste, but I
Nice.
really liked it. It was like a crazy experience.
Special
I'm not a
drink.
cocktail drinker. I'd never I'm not into that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yesterday I tried one and I liked it.
Was it like
It's crazy because
$20?
you don't know what you're expecting.
Right. Yeah. Especially if it has a bunch of stuff in it. You're like, I feel like you could hold maybe 3 things. You're like ginger, orange, lemon. You're like, okay. But then if it's like, and this, and ginger beer, and then it's like, I got to
Yeah,
taste
it was
this
like
to figure it
the
out.
most popular drink in the place I was having
Ooh,
lunch.
nice. Popular favorite
Literally.
drink,
Bring
cocktail,
me one of
famous
those.
cocktail.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice, 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 nice.
So we both shaved.
Yeah,
What's up with that? Why did you shave? And we we didn't of course told each other we were gonna shave. It just happened.
yeah. I had an audition. I didn't
Is
want
it
to.
coincidence or synchronicity?
It's coincidence. Yeah,
Okay.
I shaved because I had an audition, and for some reason, they don't like beards very much. So
Of course.
even if you have a headshot that's not beard, and if you've got footage that's not beard, and you have photos that are recent that aren't beard, they can't
You need to
imagine.
show
They
up
have to.
shaved.
Yeah, it's
So you
there's
always shaved for auditions,
there's a
like a
suppo-
100%.
you yeah, unless it's like really like a large beard, and the audition I get is like so perfect, like, you
Mhm.
know, handyman who likes the woods, and like something so specific. I'm like, oh, okay, this will work, and it's something
Mhm.
that. But usually, yeah, there's a surprising lack of creativity and imagination in almost all aspects of the film industry. Um,
Wow.
Basically, you have writers, sometimes cinematographers, maybe art decorators, but for the most part, it's pretty mechanical and
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on what they know works, and it's not very imaginative. But
That's true. Hmm.
it's an interesting phenomenon. Why did you shave?
In the
What's
movie industry.
Why did you
I
shave?
just I felt like it. I don't know. It just I woke up and I was like, I'm shaving today.
Yeah,
Um, it has some kind of effect on me, placebo effect. It's like I very rarely shave. Like last time I
yeah.
shaved was January. I trim the beard and like keep it clean and
Mm-hmm.
not too crazy. But when I do shave, it feels like something happened, like a before and after
Yeah, for
experience.
sure.
And I can kind of use that to my advantage, and it changes my mood and my a little bit of my energy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I usually don't like the outcome. I think I usually like having a beard. I think it's just
me too. Yeah,
I think it's like the exposure. Like when you shave, you really it feels like more vulnerable, like you're putting your face out there more.
exactly.
Well,
Yeah,
especially
and
if I have a full beard, I like for some reason I'm like I'm more like I don't know,
it hides you. It
slightly
kind of
separated
it's a
from.
filter. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
nice.
That's why they want you shaved on auditions so they can you're not hiding behind the beard.
Yeah, I
Beer.
suppose. The beer.
Yeah. Um, so, what are we talking about today, my friend?
You didn't get the memo.
I didn't.
I wrote a three-page memo.
We always schedule topics for our podcast, and we didn't for this one. I'm just
That's
kidding.
not
We
true.
never, not true at all.
That's not
Um,
true. 10 minutes ago, I had something that I was like, oh, that'd be a good thing to talk about, and it's gone now. It's completely evaporated into the ether.
when I mentioned the number 9, you were like, we could talk about
Oh
that.
yeah, and that now just reminded me of the other things. So we have two topics to talk
What's the other
about.
thing?
The first thing that I was gonna say was um, this concept of Pharmakon, the Greek word. I'm gonna butcher this, but basically, there's one word for medicine and poison. It was one name.
What is it?
I think it's
Can you
Pharmakon.
repeat that?
Pharmakon.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's one word for medicine and poison. So it's like the same concept. So it's the idea that with any substance that perturbs the mind or changes your consciousness or body physiology, that there's a dose response where at some level of it, it could be beneficial for different reasons, but then it can be negative. So that almost everything can be a medicine or a poison. And I love that idea. I like that concept. And
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
you can change that philosophically to apply to other things other than substances or medicine or whatever you want to call things that
Yeah, yeah.
perturb your experience or mind. But I mentioned it because I notice it so clearly that there's that window with caffeine and with stimulant where at a certain level or milligrams of caffeine or amount of cups of coffee where there's a perfect uh, place where you feel stimulated, you want to work, you can be in the zone, and everything's flowing properly. And then for me, there's like so close to that. Immediately after that is almost like something so revved up that it's empty. Like thoughts can't even remain. Like it's almost like I can't hold things for a long period of time. Like ideas will go. I'll forget what I wanted to talk about. Uh, do you notice
Hmm.
that like can you describe the feeling of when you think maybe the dose response curve of caffeine goes starting to go down? Like what do you notice in your experience if you've had too much coffee or what that feeling might be? Do you even get that or are you just like, "Oh, I'm getting tired now. I was in the zone."
Yeah, I don't really have a feeling that I know it's the coming down of the caffeine, right? I just feel like
Mhm.
um
I don't think it's the coming down for me. It's the too peaked that it's actually a negative influence.
oh, like when you had
Too
too
much
much
coffee.
coffee?
Yeah, too much
Okay,
coffee.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I've had that. And it's for me it's more of I'm anxious. I'm
Yeah.
nervous and my hands are sweaty and
Yeah.
it doesn't there's a little bit of confusion in terms of like I should have all this energy to do stuff,
Mhm.
but now I just feel weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I should do, or
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm tired or if I'm
Right.
just feeling unmotivated. Like
Yeah.
it's it's a weird feeling. It has happened probably like 3 times, 5 times, not
Really?
that many. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that
I would
is
say
that a
that
lot?
it's very no, I would say that I that
No,
happens
it's few.
very
Yeah,
often. For me it's like
for you.
very close. The
Hmm.
and it's not even a lot cuz I go through months and months where I don't have any coffee or
Hmm.
caffeine of any sort. So obviously after that it's a very low dose or a small cup of coffee can get me to that too much caffeine place. But I think the concept is really interesting for me to think about the idea that you can always have too much of a good thing and that
Yeah.
there's always that boundary of benefit to detriment and that pharmacon concept I love it because um, it's just something that if you had a folder in your mind that was talking about balance, that concept is should be a large manila envelope in that cabinet where you if you're ever opening up that balance cabinet, you've got Pharmakon and the concept of good things can become bad things. I think that's and
Hmm.
also not to look at things as necessarily bad or good, but to look at how are you incorporating them into your life or you know we like to make concepts of things as good or bad and we like to name them as people saying this is a bad thing, this is a good thing,
Yeah.
um, but there's so many variables and so much context that would be required to determine whether or not something could be good or bad. um,
Yeah, and it could be good or bad, or a combination of good and bad, either from your own perspective and experience, or for everyone generally, right?
right.
But like in terms of substances, it's just all about dose and your own dose, and if you're able to measure
Right.
the amount of caffeine, for example,
Mm-hmm.
then you would know what the excess is for you, like
Right.
when you went too far.
That's a big
And
alcohol thing.
everything in excess
Yeah.
is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Excess with everything, it's, I think, I would be falling into the category of like good or bad people if I say
Right.
it's excess is almost always bad. But it is. I think it is. Like there,
Unless excess is unless excess occurs in someone's experience where they learn a valuable lesson about the potential of excess in their life, and it changes something about them fundamentally. I think excess negative can also be a tool
sure.
for positive, but I
Yeah,
agree. In general, excess
that
is
would be an
bad.
exception.
Excess is usually
Yeah.
bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
if most of our conversations we agree that balance is a good thing
Yeah.
most of the time, then most of the time excess would be a bad thing.
Right. They're
And
part and parcel.
we could agree on that. Like there are certain things that are actually bad.
Right.
Like we could agree that there's good and bad.
Well,
It's not all relative.
let's try.
But
What's
yeah,
something that's bad?
sure. Killing. Well, but you would say like, murder. Murder is bad. Um, except if it's in self-defense, or like you
Or
could always have an exception. But
is murdering somebody who's killing someone every 10 minutes, is killing them a good or a bad thing?
it's not a binary answer. But
I like your answer.
overall, I think that that would be a good thing. Except you're no superhero. You don't have the freedom to take that person's life, even if
Right.
it's they're a horrible person, right?
Hmm.
That's
So
I
you're
don't know.
saying
What do you think?
so you're saying it's more right to not kill someone who's killing someone every 10 minutes because you enacting the killing is bad, and so that act doesn't justify the alleviation of potentially
That's a that's a
thousands of people's lives over the course of a week or two.
I'm not saying anything, first of all. I'm just like
No, I've written this
uh
down. I've written this down and it's recorded. This is live and it's a recorded podcast, and
we
can't believe
have
you.
this disclaimer that
Yeah, no.
no opinion is personal. We're just exploring shit. No, but let's pretend you're in
Farid
like
agrees with murderers. You love murderers.
dude, you shouldn't say that out loud on public spaces,
Okay.
public virtual spaces.
Okay.
People could just cut that little tiny piece of video and use that
Do it.
against me
Everyone do
and
it.
take it out of context. uh,
All right.
if you're in a
So
situation
let's
where you can actually stop a murderer from killing more people, let's say in a public area or whatever, if you're in a
yeah.
situation where you could actually make a decision and end this guy's life
Yeah.
to help everyone else that's alive,
Yeah.
you're a hero.
You are a hero. Let's change the example.
Please.
Can you give me an example of something that you think is inherently bad, that isn't as a severe example as a murderer?
So it doesn't involve killing, because I could argue suicide.
No, let's not take an act. Is there a thing that's inherently
Hmm.
bad? Do you think there's a thing
A
that's inherently
thing,
bad? Yeah.
100% bad.
Something that's bad. Are there good and bad things?
But are we trying to find a thing that doesn't have an exception to it? Like a thing that's overall 100% bad.
I'm going to be
Like,
100% honest with you, and this is where I talk about Pharmakon. I don't know exactly what we're talking about.
you don't know what we're talking about?
No.
We are talking about
I kind of know. Do
good,
you want to set the rules?
evil,
So
good.
right. So we were talking about substance things, anything that influences somebody as not being inherently good or bad. Although excess is bad. Excess of anything can take anything and turn it into something that could be bad for you.
But there are exceptions to that rule. It's not 100%. So are we trying to find the one thing that doesn't have an exception to the rule? Like this
Okay.
thing is 100% bad.
Well,
Anything, you can't say anything to kind of make it 99%.
is there anything that could be taken to excess that could not be bad at the
I like that better. Okay. Yeah, I guess you can
can't like
be.
something more better. Yeah, you can.
I like that better.
All right.
Um, if you're, could you have health in excess? I don't think you can't.
Unless
Like,
everyone was so healthy that nobody remembered what it was like to have any ailment, so that nobody appreciated the health because you wouldn't have anything to compare it to.
yeah, but you're getting,
If you
you're
were
you're getting.
if you were so healthy and
Yeah, yeah,
everyone
yeah.
was so healthy, you'd never appreciate it. No?
Of course, you don't have the contrast.
So is
But what if
our
everyone
illnesses
was?
so illnesses are good is what we're saying. Illness is good. It's good to get a little sick now and again
It's
to
good
remind
to.
you.
It's good. Yeah, I mean,
Couple
it's
flus here
the
and there, broken leg.
light. It's a light shadow thing where the opposite needs each other.
Yeah.
But I think what's good is that we're all not completely healthy or not completely ill. We're not completely enlightened or not completely ignorant. So the fact that we're in that constant balance and like,
Middle zone, middle way, the way.
yeah, like
That's the Taoist thing.
the, yeah, Taoism is beautiful.
Yeah, I gotta read it
It's
some
one
more.
of
I
my
gotta read
favorite.
more.
Yeah.
What's that main book? Lao Tzu? Just
The I Ching.
no, 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 no. The main name for I think it's just called. It is
Tao Te Ching.
the Tao Te Ching. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I have a copy and I haven't read it quite yet because I'm lazy and don't get through any of the books that I intend to get through.
There's a great video uh, of Terence McKenna speaking about Taoism that
Mm-hmm.
I recently watched. It's like 10-minute thing.
Yeah,
He's sitting he's sitting beside a tree and dude,
man.
that's a, I think that he does a great summary, like a brief explanation of Tao.
Yeah, I really need to get working on that project. I keep letting it slip.
Hmm.
I keep letting it slip. It's so hard.
I would love to document that, by the way. Like I have it in my head that I'm
Yeah,
gonna insist very hard on you that I document the whole thing and
yeah. It's so hard to know exactly what to put into it because there's so many lectures and the guy was brilliant at exploring ideas and regardless of whether you think a lot of what he says was idiotic, I mean some of it was and he would be the first person to admit that it was. It wasn't about
yeah,
being right or wrong, it was about exploring and trying to come up to
exactly.
understanding on your own uh, on your own according to your own perspective. Um,
Nice. Sum that up.
I almost just gave up.
Beautifully.
I almost gave up, but I realized so much in this podcast. I've just ended sentences halfway or just ended with and
No,
then
that's me. I'm
stopped.
the one that doesn't end the
Yeah.
sentences. Like, 'cause I assume you already know what I'm about to say. That's
It's not good.
not good. And then we're back on the good or bad thing.
No, but I just cut you off as you were explaining the situations where I cut you off. One of the things I have to do, we started this podcast with a vision of being conscious and aware and noticing when something that we do and exchange happens and allowing ourselves
Yeah.
to correct them and to get better at our ability to communicate and create sentences consciously. And
Right, and
uh,
listen to the other person and like, yeah.
yes, and I
Hmm.
need to do a better job at remaining aware of that uh, goal and of that
Yeah.
because I've started to let that drift as one of the main priorities in the execution of these podcasts.
But why do you think you let that drift? Like, from my point of view, we set the vision, and by doing the episodes, and by that I mean practicing the conversations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we sit down and we're here right now. We're practicing.
Yeah,
So that we're doing that,
I agree.
right?
I
Like
think
we're
there's a
not
difference
not doing it.
between. I think there's a difference between uh, doing something and doing something. But that's
Just
there's a
please
level of.
elaborate. Okay.
I agree that we're showing up and we're doing this and it's on book and you can see the numbers go up and we're coming to have this conversation every
So
time. I'm
what do
just
you
saying
mean we're not doing?
I
Mhm.
could do a better job personally. I don't need to get philosophical about this, but I could do a better job personally of reminding myself and being more conscious of when I cut you off and when I finish sentences without actually finishing what I'm trying to say, or the amount that I'm saying and all of these things. I agree that we're doing it and that's part of the practice, but I'm just saying that I could be more aware of the specifics that I'm trying to improve upon as we are doing this. And that is my public
Okay, okay,
statement
nice.
of
I
my.
agree. I agree. I agree. So you would like a more conscious approach, like before starting, like going over the things we're practicing, like being more specific about it.
I would say we don't need to change anything in our approach other than
Yeah.
my mental, my what I remind myself of and my mindset going into it is what I'm
Nice,
gonna do a
nice.
better
But
job about.
do you feel like now that we're on number 9, something is changing, something's improving a little bit, or do you feel like we're talking again and it's the same? It's hard, of
I
course. I know it's hard to tell,
yeah.
but I just want to know how you feel.
I would say that maybe I feel less pressure to have big subjects to delve into because I'm aware that there's so many podcasts where, especially interview podcasts, where the whole thing is content about that new content, new information. Someone asks a question to somebody who knows a lot about something and they respond, and the whole podcast or episode is very informative. And I think I'm letting myself be more open to the idea or to remind myself that this is about the practice and about being open and conscious in conversation, and it's not necessarily about having content to deliver or to touch on.
Of course,
Like
yeah,
I would
I
say
agree.
this podcast is probably the least topics so far covered, probably. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I wouldn't know, but I think what you're saying is there's value. There's not only value in the actual content. There's value in the exploration of the process of sitting down and having the conversation and exploring being authentic and
Right.
and and like being able to jump into some random idea and elaborate even though you're not an expert on the field or whatever. Like,
Right.
there's value in that, and
Totally.
even if it's not the most informative content, the the overall experience is valuable, and hopefully entertaining for some people.
Yes, and I have to say, I already lost the thing that I had put up in my head of like my of things that were aware and observing myself. I already lost that thing that I put up when I talked about being more conscious, and I regained it when I was listening to you there. So that's a little insight into what's
Nice, nice,
but
nice.
I did want to say that I need to remind myself of this idea that we're talking about right now when it comes to, say, last week. Part of the reason why, I mean, there's many reasons why we didn't cast, but one of the reasons was I didn't feel that day like I had content or like I would have had anything to talk about. But that's not the purpose of the cast or of the practice. And so that's something that I need to remind myself of.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Also, I think the test is harder. The practice really makes a difference past the first hour of the cast. Like, it starts to matter more if you're really listening, if you're focused, if you're replying to the actual thing that the other person said, or just saying what was already in your head and you were just waiting for the other person to finish and just say your thing, right?
Totally. Yeah. And that probably comes from some fatigue, but also that's something that I guess why it's called a practice we'd probably get better at, is having more longevity in terms of the ability to remain focused and conscious in a conversation.
Dude, I'm constantly amazed at how Joe Rogan is able to maintain very good conversations over 3 hours. Like,
I agree. You see him slip though into
I mean,
ideology.
of course.
I've seen a lot of guests where he doesn't.
100%.
I'll see him see someone else and then make a judgment about what their perspective might be, because he's seen a lot of people with different perspectives, and then I'll see him assume their perspective and then respond as if he knew what they were going to say, and then it becomes sort of a shut down thing. They'll move on to a different topic or something else will come up, but it seems heavily dictated by his it's his podcast and it's his interview, but I do see that quite a lot, especially more recently. But it is true. Those the people who are regularly having conversations, you see a massive improvement in their ability to communicate with people, and I think that that's a beautiful thing.
I guess where I'm coming from is because we both saw a little bit or a lot of the Elon Musk interview.
Yeah.
And like I was listening to that while I was working on other shit, but I was impressed by how he handled having him there. He had real rapport at the end with him. Like, Elon was relaxed, and I think that was his objective.
Wow.
Allow him to relax, like speak up and feel free to. And I in my personal opinion, I might be wrong. Like, I
thought the complete opposite.
That's interesting.
I thought that he...
Tell me about it.
I thought that he felt like this was the podcast, and he wore the pink, nice button-up shirt because he was trying to like be slightly more. And I think that
the pink shirt was
I
fun.
think that having the drinks, so it's a little laid back, but I think it completely sidetracked Joe Rogan's ability to engage in the conversation in a specific way. I think he kept making the podcast. It's like he had this idea in his head that Elon Musk is this crazy fucking inventor guy that like, and he kept enforcing this view on the podcast instead of letting it unfold. And I found it quite frustrating. And I found Elon Musk, he was very relaxed, but I think he was also exhausted and just rolling with it. But
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that his relaxation was due to the interview style. I think it was a very I thought I saw Joe Rogan actually like quite nervous and like trying to impress him and trying to
He
be
was
like
nervous, yeah, and you could
and
see the fascination. He was like in love with this guy.
yeah, but he also didn't quite know what to say. And I found it like
I mean, like,
I
what would you
didn't
say?
what do you mean what would you
I
say? Like I don't know, like the whole I don't know. I thought that I would have loved to know more about what he thought were about than like how crazy is it to be a genius? Like the whole thing was like and that's
Yeah, he
like
was a little bit
uh yeah.
overwhelming on that side. I'm like, do you really know you're this really like, yeah, it was too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. I don't know.
Um,
I thought it could have been a much the thing that I took away from it was listening to Elon Musk respond and deal with the situation and
mhm.
I think the fourth podcast, if they did four, I think maybe the fourth would have been nice. I just found it like uncomfortable. I found it uncomfortable. I think that
It was, and
yeah,
I think that's why it also is very entertaining to watch,
yeah,
because the dynamics going on are subtle but definitely there. And but I agree that he was making a lot of emphasis on the like, I'm this average Joe and you're this super enlightened alien guy that's
yeah,
different than everyone else, and like, how do you think, and like, how do you feel inside your head? Please tell me, and please smoke a joint while you tell me. Like,
yeah. And
um,
I want to make a collage of every time he said bottleneck. Joe Rogan said, like, what are the bottlenecks? He said bottleneck like 1,000 times. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. It was a very
yeah,
interesting, but it was interesting to see a long form with Elon Musk because I'd never seen a
true.
long form
Yeah,
conversation with him.
and that's what I was saying. It's 3 hours.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very long. It's very
it's
long.
very long,
Yeah.
and
And this is all to say that I don't think I couldn't conduct a better interview. I'm not pretending that these are just things that I had noticed and I
yeah.
had wished it was different to get more out of the guy because it was interesting to have an opportunity to listen to someone for a longer yeah.
Uh, And just to finish this brief Elon Musk parenthesis,
Yeah.
something that kind of remained in your mind after you watched, like some gem that stuck with you. I mean, maybe
I
by
think that I
saying
think
gem, I'm like putting it too hard on yourself, like
no,
the
but
thing, but just like
yeah, I
anything.
think one idea was the weight that Elon Musk apparently feels about making a difference or change towards the human impact on the environment. And this sort of like he's trying to make his cars do like backflips and do like amazing stuff to try to like entice people enough to buy something that could be towards a better direction than pumping fossil fuels and that's a whole big discussion, but you could tell that he feels like he's killing himself over trying to impress people enough to adopt a technology that he thinks is almost too late to adopt to make any difference. But he's like uh and also to know that the attention span of everyone watching will see that and go like, oh, it's so heartwarming that he cares so much for the environment, it was so beautiful, da da da, and then move on with their lives and then not like to know that nobody really cares and that
Mhm.
nobody really we don't know how to change what needs to change on such a large scale to make any difference, and that the immediacy of it doesn't matter because people just don't care and are so consumed with their own lives that Um, yeah, it's I think I got a very deep feeling that of his frustration with the whole thing, and then a sadness that I had about how the response is just going to be, oh, that's cute, he cares so much, and then I agree, hashtag environment, and then like it's yeah.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know. Yeah, it's
I understand. Yeah.
yeah. Did you have a takeaway?
Um, I
Also, how
guess
stupid our
just yeah.
stock, how stupid our, like, the stock dropped because he smoked some, because he just did that and
Yeah.
it went
Yeah.
down like 10%. But you know
Mhm.
that there's people in the company and others people who were just waiting because they knew he was going on that show. They were just
Of course.
expecting something like that so that they could sell and buy stock, and that guy was ready to quit at a drop of a hat.
Yeah, he mentioned his friend a couple of times that was texting him, and then he mentioned like a friend. I told a friend I wouldn't swear, and like he had some kind of managing
Yeah.
friend that was like
Yeah.
supporting him, because of
Yeah.
course he's a huge figure, so he needs to take precautions. But he didn't even take a hit of the thing.
No, but
He really
yeah.
didn't. Like that's it's very silly. And I'm not sure it wasn't entirely because of that. I don't know. Maybe it was like
Yeah. And
literally like he's smoking,
yeah.
I'm out. Like I don't know.
And I also don't think that it was like a impulse decision. I think that he knew that that could be a potential. I think he is aware that even though it might have taken it in his mind, it either was it either was this is going to be a short-term negative for a long-term positive of people who see me as independent and to make my own decisions, and whatever, some cool factor for people who are growing up and getting the ability to spend money on a car and all that stuff, or it was just I want to feel independent and not be controlled by stakeholders.
Exactly, yeah.
But
But and maybe it was. I don't want to say it was planned. I don't want to sound conspiracy theory.
no, but that's what I'm saying.
But
He was
maybe
aware that
he knew. He knew, or maybe he even orchestrated the whole thing out of
yeah,
marketing.
yeah,
He's a
maybe.
really smart guy, so we can't really know. Yeah, maybe.
But I
What
also thought it was
I
funny.
was,
I also sorry to cut you off.
please,
I
yeah,
just want to
no.
say I also thought it was funny that I think in his mind he thought that he took a hit and he thought that it didn't affect him, and I thought that was hilarious.
You think so? You think
Yeah.
he thought he took a hit and he was like, well, I
Yeah, he
didn't
was
get.
like I don't feel anything, and they
Well,
t-
you didn't even smoke. Yeah.
well, that's what I thought. It was just funny that I think in his mind he thought like it doesn't it won't affect me or something like that. I thought that was
He also
funny.
said that I think he used the words almost never smoke.
Yeah.
Um, so he
It's
was just
not a
like
big deal.
for
It's not a
me
big
it's
deal.
non-productive and whatever. But I think the point was it's there's no difference between like lighting this blunt and smoking this glass of whiskey, at least
Smoking this
there,
glass of
because
whiskey.
smoking this but
But
coming
yeah, he
up with
said
new experiences.
catchphrases. You guys want to smoke this whiskey?
Dude, that sounds
But yeah,
fun.
he and he said I think he said a really good point that, and this is why I think like Joe wasn't really present in that conversation, but he said that that alcohol is a drug that's been grandfathered in, and I thought that
Mhm.
that is a huge discussion that didn't
They should
get
have went
didn't
into
get
that
explored.
for
But I thought
sure.
that was that's
I
a really
agree.
good point.
I
But
was
how did we
I
get on
was
to talking about this Elon Musk interview? We've been
I
talking about it
brought
for
it
like
up. I'm
half an
sorry.
hour.
It was me. I brought it up.
Every episode you mentioned like a YouTube
No, because
conversation.
well, we were talking about conversation abilities, and I was
Mm-hmm,
like, I
mm-hmm.
think Joe Rogan has improved a lot,
Dude,
and
yeah,
the Elon
of
Musk
course.
thing, it's 3 hours long, and
Yeah,
he's still very, he's a good interviewer,
he is.
in
He's
my
a very good
opinion.
interview. I agree. I agree.
Um, Yeah, but the last thing I was gonna say about Elon is like, how is Tesla way harder than SpaceX? I don't get that. Like, it's hard for me to understand why when Joe asked, like, what's the hard, what keeps you up at night, something like that. And he was like, actually Tesla. And he was like, no, but isn't SpaceX like super hard? He was like, I don't want to sound like SpaceX is not like extremely hard, but running a car company,
No, but the thing is, like,
how is landing
first of
those
all, listen,
rockets not
dude.
like,
First of all, Joe could have asked him more about why they're more difficult and gone into it more. But I mean, he said there's only two companies that are two, I forget what it was, but running
he
a car
explained.
company is not easy to stay afloat. I think it's very hard to keep a car company choosing
Right.
places
And
to
it's
manufacture. Most cars can go, here's a plant in wherever they make the Dodge this and the Ford this, and
mhm.
you can make a bid on the manufacturing place and they'll make your car. You can't do that with Tesla. Like he said, they have to make everything. Like
Yeah,
I
and they tried to steal
Yeah,
like the Lotus chassis
yeah,
and
and
that failed
sale
and they had to
yeah,
redesign the whole thing. Yeah.
man, yeah, and
The
space.
AC, the air conditioner thing
Yeah,
and
SpaceX I
etc.
think is something that he has more control over time-wise. Like if something's not ready, they can, like a car, you're on
Course. And
schedule,
it's
you have
not
to have things
consumer
produced.
oriented.
It's not
Consumer
consumer
facing.
oriented. You're not as worried about legal liabilities. It's
100%.
like
Yeah.
I just think there's so many variables that us not being embedded in. I don't think it's worth saying how can a car company, because that's just like an ignorant way to view something we don't know what behind the scenes are. Um,
Right, right, yeah. But
but
also the difference between an electric car and like
right.
the
Uh,
landings of the rockets and
yeah.
that's like
Yeah, I think
in my head there wasn't comparison. But
the
he was talking about
engineering
the
on the
actual running of the thing.
I
Yeah.
keep cutting
Sorry.
you off. The engineering of the space stuff must be way more advanced and specific, but they only have to make one of the thing, and all their resources can go on to making. They don't have to. Yeah, I just. Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know. I can't even speculate. I can't even name the variables because I'm not.
Of course, yeah. I was
Um,
just impressed by that. Because in my head I was thinking, of course, it's SpaceX, right? Or maybe Hyperloop. But it's Tesla. Anyway, um, I wanted him to have a better opinion on meditation. Like something inside me wanted him to say, I do meditate sometimes and find it helpful. Um,
wow.
yeah, you're super
Well, I think. Well,
white.
that was the whole podcast of Joe seeming like he was this enlightened, super. Like, why do we think someone who's an extremely invested engineer, why would they have spent lots of time meditating or
Because he very clearly stated that he's got like very crazy mind and he can't
right?
turn it
But
off.
I think a lot of engineers are like that. I'm not saying that they're the same as Elon Musk, but I think people who work heavily in engineering, like their mind is very like detail oriented, like a lot of obsessive compulsive, like
Yeah.
some of that spectrum stuff going on. Uh, and but those are the exact opposite people who would invest time in meditation, I think, or be interested in looking it up because
Right. But if
the function is not immediate, and it's more esoteric. It's more it's not like here are the graphs and here's the specific blueprints of what you're going to receive in 10
yeah,
minutes,
yeah,
and
yeah. Of course.
it's
Um,
I wouldn't expect the guy to know
yeah, or
anything.
to
Yeah.
be or to be called by meditation or like to be fascinated
Yeah.
by it. But if he's suffering from an unbalance of like overthinking and high anxiety and like if he's stating that he's suffering from that, like if you can't turn it off, then like it's an issue. Well, there's practices and there's things that can help you slow it down if you feel like you want to, and and what I was getting from is like
Right.
he sometimes needs to pause it,
Man,
right?
I agree, but I think, yeah, we can't conflate someone who is dealing with issues that could benefit from meditation and someone who has looked into it or is interested in looking into it. Like it's the same thing as
Yeah,
people who might be, eating tons of fast food and dealing with diabetes and obesity. They are probably not the people who are obsessed with looking into nutrition and health and fitness.
exactly.
They're
Hmm.
but they're the people who would need, like, it's just
Like,
there's a thing where, it's not always necessarily true that someone who needs a lifestyle change or an interest in something is going to get that interest in that thing that will benefit them. I think there's a
sure. Yeah, and I'm not even saying he should meditate or that would help
I
him.
think he should.
Who knows?
He should.
Shit.
I think he should. I think
Um,
it'll help everybody if you can get the habit going. I'm a number one proponent
yeah, I
across
don't
the
know.
board.
I don't know about the everybody. Like I think
Everybody.
there's people that don't really need to meditate.
I will debate that. I think everybody.
Let's debate that then. Welcome, please. Why do you think that like meditation is good for everyone as a generalization?
Because there is a take all of the physical health benefits aside, the hormonal, cortisol, all of those things that have been studied.
Yeah.
Just take the self-reflection. Just take self-reflection. Anybody can benefit from being aware of the thoughts that they're having and understanding why they're having those thoughts. That's, of course, there can be an excess, but I'm not advocating the amount that somebody meditate. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
we're not talking about that. Hmm.
this is the result of being aware of what's going on. And of course, somebody can do that without meditation. People can be self-reflective without it. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but that is
That's my argument. If you're already
No, but that's
in
not an
your
argument.
clarity and if you're already killing it and you already have the game figured out and you're not suffering from any psychological
Right.
or like mental anxiety or whatever, if
Right.
you're
But my
a-okay in every way.
but my position was meditation is something that can benefit everybody and it is beneficial to everybody. My argument wasn't that you won't get the benefit from meditation from anything else. And those are two different things.
I'm not saying
You
I'm
can
not saying
get you
people.
can get
My
self
argument is not that people can get it somewhere else.
But your
Um,
argument was just that, say, someone who already has self-reflection in their life and that they don't need it because they have clarity and that's isn't that your argument?
yeah, if they're already on track, right?
What's on track?
By on track, I mean they know they have a certain level, like an okay level of self-awareness, first of all. So they know, I'm not saying 100%, there's always a balance,
Right. So if
but
they
you know who
meditated,
you are, you know where you're going, you know
right,
what you want to do with your life, and you already have your strategy and you're in action mode and you're going there and you're on the way. And you don't really suffer from like OCD or anything
yeah,
that would make you say I need to balance my thoughts or anything, or
right.
like
So
if you actually sit down and meditate and start to create a
yeah,
habit, it could be maybe for that specific person. I know this is an exception.
it's not an exception though, because my argument
So
wasn't that everybody needs meditation. My argument was that meditation is beneficial for everybody.
I'm trying to make an argument where meditation could actually
It,
take you away
right, but I
hitting the
don't.
target.
Right. So you didn't convince me with saying that
I
somebody
did.
who is already on track. You're saying that that person, say if he meditated, he wouldn't improve his ability to be aware of his own thoughts and be and get the physiological benefits of it.
I don't know, but I'm thinking that
Well,
maybe
you're arguing for it. You can't say I
I'm
don't
arguing.
know
I
and then
know.
argue
No.
for it.
Because I don't want to feel my argument to be like my Like I'm fighting for this. I'm
Yeah.
not really. But I think that if you're on track, and I already explained what on
What is
track
on?
means in
Yeah,
this
but I
case.
don't. What's on
You know,
track?
on track is it's working. Your
What's
life is
working?
working. Your life and your path and your everyday routines and experiences. Like you
But
don't
if
have anything to complain about.
Right, but if you're say you're somebody whose their life is working and they don't understand how they communicate with their staff, they don't know how they communicate with their loved ones, they don't know the impact they have on other people, but their life is working, they're making more money, they're making more profit, they think that
I
everything
didn't
is
say
on
work
track.
financially. I never said
Right, but my
work.
thing is the perception that you're on track is subjective. And
Yeah.
someone whose life, who they think they're on track, could be someone who says, "Oh, I don't need meditation because my life's on track." Of course, I'm very self-aware. I know everything that I'm the most self-aware person you can meet. I
Well,
know
you're
exactly.
characterizing some arrogance in this guy, and maybe it's not necessary. I
So
mean,
you're saying that there's someone out there that is so aware, that is basically enlightened, that basically
no, no,
is
no, no,
so
no, no,
conscious
no, no,
of
no.
who they are and
Ignorant,
how they're impacting
ignorant people, right?
ignorant people who are just super successful at being
We're already doing what they want to be doing, and
order in the court.
they're already getting the results. And I'm not saying what that thing is or what those results are. Could
Yeah.
be, but if you know what you want and you're getting it out of your behavior and routines and habits that fill your life, I agree that if you would get the benefit from meditation if
Exactly.
you sit down. But
Exactly.
yes, but what if you don't want to incorporate a new habit? What if you don't want anything to be moved because
I'm not talking
you're
about
on
want.
track?
We're not talking about want. We're talking about
Right.
if something would
Okay.
benefit. Here's the thing. We don't need to continue this thing,
Yeah. Okay.
but I am right now, Monday, September 10th, 2018. I believe that meditation is one of those things that a small amount of it is anything, any amount of it that you can incorporate into your day is beneficial unless you're doing like the full day or unless it's negatively impacting your life, which I think would have to be a lot. You would have to
I think
meditate
it. No,
so
but what I'm saying
much.
is it could easily negatively alter your life, at least in the short term. I'm not saying
I think
meditation
this
could be
argument is
bad
so
for someone.
ridiculous. I think this
No, no,
argument
no.
is
Let me
so
elaborate.
ridiculous.
It's not. It's not.
It's a waste of
Here's the
time
thing.
to have.
Okay, in my experience, there have been some times where I incorporate meditation back into a constant habit for a month and or more or whatever. And it maybe I skip a day or doesn't
So
matter.
specific. It's very specific so far.
Meditation could take you to a place where you 100% need to face your demons or your negative whatever.
Sure.
And that's a good thing because if you do that, you come out on the other side a better than before.
That's so your argument is based
But
on
there's a chaos phase. There's
meditation
a very
isn't
chaotic.
just facing things that are that are like your demons or things you have to face. That's not what it
But
is in its
it's
entirety.
also not only like sitting down and being blissful.
No, it's not. It's not. But I can already tell that the argument you're making is restricted to the specifics of facing things that are extremely negative in your life and then having those detrimentally impact you because of facing them, which isn't an encompassing of meditation on the whole. So it's kind of a straw man.
Okay,
No?
I'll buy that. out of arguing too much. Um,
I'm arguing too much.
I don't want to
I
continue
agree. Meditation isn't for
to
everybody.
defend that Oh, you were agreeing?
Yeah,
You're agreeing.
meditation isn't for everybody.
Nice.
In these situations, if you're somebody who doesn't
Can't take the chaos
who does no,
that
it's not about chaos. I'm going to make the argument that if you're somebody that sees meditation as a waste of time, and anytime you try to do it you feel like you're wasting time and you don't actually invest in it, you don't feel like you're doing anything, and you get distracted and it just frustrates you, and the rest of the day you're frustrated because you're like, oh, I wasted time this morning, and and you're just frustrated by it, then I don't think that it would be beneficial to that person. So you win.
Right. If you so placebo matters. Self placebo, like having the willingness to benefit from it.
Right.
If you don't have that willingness to benefit, if you're only like, fuck, I'm doing this and this is stupid and I'm wasting time and I need to go to the grocery store, then of course that's not beneficial. But if you,
I think it could be. Let's end
of course,
this. I keep flip-flopping.
It could be.
I keep flip-flopping.
No, just to finish it up.
Yeah.
If you're not in a if you're not in a place in your life where you can go into personal reflection and actual work, because it takes work, like you can have an insight, but then you have to work.
It's not easy. Sitting silent is not easy by itself.
Not at all. And it's actually sometimes it's suffering, and and you have to deal with stuff and untangle mental shit. If you have your life working for you, you could have many flaws and many stuff to work on.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to go through that, or if going through that is gonna mess up everything else, maybe meditation wouldn't benefit you right on that phase of your life.
Sure, and that's the argument. Yeah, sure. I had to flip-flop just because I was getting too invested in my position, and I needed to switch out at the end there just so I could not feel like I was super empathetic, or not empathetic, but super just obsessed with one side of the argument. I will say, and then I got to go to the bathroom. We take a quick break.
Me too. Awesome.
I will say, I truly believe meditation should be a requirement in schools, almost throughout the school system.
Right.
Because I think in the formative years as a kid right now, we're seeing with social media and phones and just the inundation with stuff, I think is most impactful when you're young and when you're forming a brain that's going to deal with the inputs of the world. And I think that, and there's so many studies on that, but I will say that is something that I think across the board is a beneficial thing that should be implemented, is meditation in schools.
I agree. There's some schools that instead of punishing you, you go meditate. And I think that's great.
That's
if
nice.
if you did something wrong, instead of like go to the corner and you're punished, go meditate for 20 minutes and come back, and then we'll talk.
Right. And I think that's good, but I would also like to know that it's being implemented not as a punishment.
Exactly. Because it could have a negative long-term. Yeah, of course. And just before we take a little pause, the flaw to my exception argument on how meditation would not benefit you, that's only in the case of the short term, or like in that moment in your life. But if you actually did it in the long term, it's work that you instead of postponing it, you're going right into what you should be working on.
And also some of it's physiological, so just the process is beneficial in some cases. So
agreed. Nice. I like this debate.
Cool. All right. Let's come back in a few minutes.
Okay. If I turn off my camera, does it mess up the stream? Just to save battery.
back in. We're back live.
We're back in
We're back. And the
the
globalist
wormhole.
elites are taking their time to reinstate the globalist economy, the globalist setting. The Dems.
Oh my god. Who am I speaking with?
Those Dems in the deep state are trying to take over.
Please tell me more. I'm interested.
That was a really bad Alex Jones impersonation.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that guy. I'm sorry.
No, me neither. Did you see that Did you see that he's no longer on Twitter, and also they took his app off of iTunes? And also,
I'm not aware.
And also, I think the company that they used to broadcast on their website stopped working with them. So like, they're like off the internet. Like they're off the internet. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
That's a thing.
Who did that to them? Like, why?
Just all the platforms. They cited different.
Because of the falsehood of the.
They said different terms of service things. They didn't necessarily cite. There was obviously, his thinking Sandy Hook was a hoax and like terrible. But it's
too much.
He's a lunatic. He's a crazy. But when is there to say like what? It's an interesting case. I will say it's interesting. It's very interesting that you can be completely ghosted from the internet.
Yeah.
Even on your own, like, yeah, it's pretty wild.
He still has a big audience of.
Yeah, but I wonder how.
I was gonna be despective about the audience. I'm sorry. I was gonna be like ignorant fucks, but I'm not. But not.
Whoa!
I'll take it back.
Whoa!
I'm sorry. I just cursed, and after the meditation and.
I have a question for you.
How do you? Yes. I like it when you like prepare the like. You could just ask the question, but you need to.
I have to set it up.
You need to set it up.
That's good. I'm hoping I can make a meme out of it, and then in 10 years we can have T-shirts that says "I have a question for you."
And I feel like whenever you do that, it's because you want me to answer. You want me to be answer guy for that question.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just go ahead and.
Yeah. Well, let me propose it as a problem, and then you can interpret it as a question. Hopefully.
Please.
I get confused with numerology. Because on the one hand, I understand that math always existed, and that we've uncovered if you had one rock and then you added another rock, there's two rocks, and you can't debate that. That's a real thing. There's math that's just in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we stopped at 9. We made up the thing that stops at 9. We could have made a new shape.
How does it stop at 9?
Well, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 is 1 and 0.
But why do you interpret that as it stops?
Because we have all of the... It
makes sense that after 9...
Because all of the numerology and sacred geometry stuff, which is super cool, and I love reading about that stuff. It's all about saying like 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this, 9 is this, and then 10 is everything, and then whatever, and then it goes, and then now it's a combination, then everything can be derived back to 1 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a made up... we could have made a new shape for 10 instead of 10. We could have made a...
We could have made a squiggly... the shapes.
We did invent the shapes. We invented that shape and this shape and the 3 shape. We could have made a new...
like 100% invention, though. It was an organic process.
I need to explore this idea.
Sense.
Could I request that you go with also on my side guy for 5 minutes, and then we can debate?
No, I'm on your side, bro.
Don't you think that we made up the shapes?
We did. We made up the shapes, but not as a creative coming up with it thing. Like it had to make sense and be organic. The development of it had to.
No, the number 9 going like that, right? Different languages use different shapes for numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
so like that thing is a made up symbol that we've related to 9. So how come we don't just there's a new shape that goes like that and that means 10? And then you know, my point is it's been a human invention to attribute all of these sacred geometry things and then stop at 10 and then like we made up the 10 thing. We made up the 10 thing. Nature and reality.
We didn't.
Nature and reality doesn't stop at 10. Nature and reality is infinite numbers that are all their own number.
Yeah, and after 10 goes 11. But then 11 are 2 ones. Why didn't we why isn't 11
a new thing? That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it makes sense to it just made sense. I think it's
How did that make sense?
It has. So you started saying that you're aware or you believe that we actually discovered like math is and will always be a thing.
Yeah, it is there and without human perception.
And that abstract understanding is one thing, and then the actual representations of the symbols that we did come up with is another thing.
And the abstract symbols of that thing are a part of all of the sacred geometry language and meaning and all that stuff is put on to the numbers 1 through 10 just because we happen to symbol those and then go back. And so all of the meaning that could be put towards numbers is put on 1 through 10. Like 12 can have some meaning, but usually that's because it has 1 and 2 and can be added up to 3, and then people make up the meanings of 1 through 10. Is that wrong? Or are there numbers that are like attributed meaning individually, separate from 1 through 10? Maybe I don't know enough to really think about this yet.
Me neither. Well, me neither. But
because I'm thinking about 13. 13 is over 1 through 10, and that has a lot of
what?
Meaning and that's not.
I think you're combining a lot of things.
I think so too. Well,
yeah.
I'm trying to have this idea, but it's hard because I don't know enough, and it's like a lot of little pieces of other things put together, and I don't know what I'm saying yet as I'm saying it.
It would be amazing if we come up with a sort of rational answer on our own right now, out of exchanging ideas.
I would almost be willing to say we should read through those documents that we shared before we... I keep forgetting what everything
but
means.
What I think we're getting to is that there's the abstract understanding of numbers.
Yes.
The concepts embedded in numbers. And then how you represent and express and add up and divide and whatever. That developed itself to match the abstract thing that makes sense. No, I'm not making sense.
No, I think the math is on the one side that exists. Math exists.
But math
the symbols we use
by itself. It exists in relation to life.
Right. Yeah. Right. Math is a way of manipulating something that exists for real. But it is a truth. It is a fundamental truth. Math is a truth. Math is the truth.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. I
Right?
can't argue with that.
You can't. Of course, we could get super. I'm not gonna. I'm not even gonna do the argument to that. But
You
uh,
were gonna go there.
I don't want to do it.
Okay.
So if we just assume for now that math is the truth and that it's a way of manipulating reality in a way that can't be argued with, and that the things that the answers that are uncovered through the use of math are answers that would be there regardless of whether or not a human being was alive. A human being needs to be alive to see the results and to agree about those results. But there's always, if you have two sticks side by side, there's two sticks there.
Yeah.
Right? So, but what we're talking about is
more.
we made the symbols that represent the numbers of things that exist.
They developed.
We developed it. We created them. And we stopped it. We stopped at 9.
It's like language. Maybe we didn't stop at 9. I don't know, but maybe there was some guy that was like, dude, after 9, we have line. And maybe his proposition didn't make sense. And and then like there was like consensus that we're like, it makes sense to have 10 and then repeat the thing.
It's a great system. It's a great system. Stopping at 9 is a great system. My point is, all of the sacred geometry and meaning put into numbers come from the fact that we stopped at 9, and stopping at 9 is an arbitrary stopping point, or is it not an arbitrary? I can't think about this. This hurts, dude. Doesn't.
It's like an impossible.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible. We can figure it out.
Okay, so you think there's an answer. Did we?
Can we get Randall Carlson on this podcast? Can we call Randall Carlson right now? I need someone who knows sacred geometry and numbers and numerology and stuff like that.
You're the guy.
I'm not the guy, dude.
But I think if we join forces, we can have a higher understanding of this thing.
But I might need research. Right now, you think so?
Yeah. Let's try to get more rational, right?
Okay.
Did stopping... I'm sorry for...
That's okay.
Construction... Okay. Oh my god.
It's okay.
If it gets too bad, you tell me. Okay.
It's only going to detrimentally influence the podcast if we talk about it.
Okay. Did we arbitrarily stop? Am I pronouncing that right? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
did we stop at 9 on purpose, or did we invent that 9 was the single-digit last number?
We invented it.
I don't think so.
Imagine 10 sticks. Why is the 10th one starting with 1 and 0? Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm in my head. In my head, it happened because it made sense, because it matched math. So we agree that math existed before we discovered it, and before we mapped it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if we mapped it right that way, and it makes sense, and all science is based on that, it wasn't a random thing that we said 9 and then it repeated the cycle. It had to make sense. It had to match the abstract system that we didn't, of course, come up with. So we just came up with the symbols for the thing, and the symbols had to make sense.
Is there any reason why a 0 should be in 10?
That's a good question. I like how you're thinking about this. I'm sure there is, bro. I'm sure there is. If we asked like
a mathematician, even, I'm not good at math. If you had a 0 and a 10, that implies that you could do another 9.
I lost you there. if you have a
It's just,
zero,
I think that here's the thing. Here's the thing. Math exists in the world. There's things that you can count and manipulate and add and subtract and do all these kinds of things with.
mm-hmm.
We bitted it, just like Alan Watts talks about naming and separating the world into things that we can identify. This is a lamp, this is a table, this is a person, thing around it, and we've called it a name in order to understand the universe. We've turned it into bits from a whole wash of information.
Yeah.
Math is just the same. Is just bidding it. So I think we stopped at 9 and 10 so that we could create little bits that are
Units,
ones,
yeah.
and we've stopped there. But I think that's arbitrary. I think the units we've created, we could have made.
You're saying 101 could be 100 if we had
different bits. Yeah.
Yeah. If we
right. Exactly.
If we would agree on that.
Yes.
It could be.
And
so,
that's the way.
okay.
That's like temperature. That's like Fahrenheit and Celsius. That's like Fahrenheit and Celsius.
But then, what if you bring up time? Could 1 o'clock?
Let's not talk
be
about
2
time.
o'clock? If you,
1 o'clock could be 2
crazy.
o'clock. 1 o'clock could be 2 o'clock. If we bitted it differently, if we took bits differently, it wouldn't be a 12-hour day. It would be a different number that represented 24 hours or 12 hours. And then the number that we use to represent a time of the day would be different.
You're only changing the symbol, the language.
No,
I'm
changing the
numbering. Has to make sense about how the universe moves.
No, but the number would be different. So it would still be in our language 24 hours, but the number would be different if our bits. No. Yes.
The language for the number would be different. The concept embedded in the understanding of what that number symbolizes or represents would be the same. Because we can't change that. We can't change.
No, let's say a second was.
We can't change 0 and 1. We can't change the fact that you either have 0 or 1, and then it goes from there.
What if 1 second
was a little bit shorter?
What if 1 second? Say. All right, I have two hypotheticals.
Okay.
Let's say 1 second was 0.3 narbits. It still takes the same amount of time, but we call it 0.3 narbits because we separated it into different things.
That's what I said.
Different names.
You're changing the symbol for the same thing.
Yes.
It's just like,
orange.
If the color orange, we would have agreed that we name orange red, and then we name red orange.
But then the
orange
day
would be red.
But then the day wouldn't be 24 hours. The day would be like way long. The day would be only like 7 narbits.
It will still take the sun the same amount of time.
Yes, it would still happen the same, but we would call it different names. It would be 7 narbits.
You're only changing how you call it. So that's what I'm saying in terms of the number. You're only changing how you call or symbolize the concept.
I agree. We're agreeing. That's why I'm saying we're agreeing. That's why I'm saying 9 is. That's why I'm saying we made up. We made up the representation of the things that exist.
Yes, I know. Yes, but we were talking about why did we stop at 9? That was the first thing.
No, I agree. Why did we stop at 9? I don't remember how we got into the narbits, but we made up how much time is in a day by the representation of the numbers.
We came up with the right measuring that made sense for how the Earth and the
But did we come up?
System,
we didn't come up with the measurements. We came up with the symbols of the specific instances of time.
How we measure.
Yeah. My second hypothetical was, say if it's 50 years from now and we're so advanced that we're symbiotic with robots, with AI, artificial intelligence.
There.
Hold on,
Yes.
hold on, hold on, hold on.
Beautiful. I love it. I
All
love
right.
it.
And they're like, you idiots, it's not 1 second. That's such a low resolution understanding of time.
Okay.
And they go, it's sometimes 0.999993, sometimes it's 0.9997, sometimes it's like there's fluctuations, you idiots. It's not this exact thing all the time, and it's changing. And that's why there's a leap year, you idiots.
It's relative to movement.
Relative to movement. And they understand the combination of different physics phenomena with magnetism and gravity, and they understand how time is accurately the reality of time to a degree that we can't.
Okay.
Then we're not even accurate. Then time isn't even. Then it's not even the numbers that we made up, but also the measurement of time, and that it's just low resolution accuracy. Am I going to a different direction here? I don't know.
I think we need to contemplate the fact that there's chronological time that we did invent. The measuring of how the day, like the fractioning of time.
Yeah.
So that we can measure a day and a week and a month and have a calendar.
Yes.
And there's many calendars and they evolve and whatever. And that's chronological time, in my opinion. And there's also time in terms of the universe is expanding and life tends to decay. So you get older, right? Matter.
Right. The arrow of time. The arrow of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes forward.
Age.
Yeah. Like
cycles.
The Mayan calendar, I think, is more accurate to the time than our calendar that we use.
Right. Also way more. It incorporates more aspects of consciousness and long-term cycles, and maybe consciousness isn't the word at all, but.
I think also just like accuracy in terms of like the way they deal with leap year or something, like the way they deal with the end of the year time.
Astrological, because they measured stars for
astronomical.
Thanks. Thank you. So they predicted the alignment of the solar system.
Yes.
That's crazy.
This is a whole different thing, but the idea that, and I need to verify this, but a lot of like Graham Hancock stuff and you know the wisdom of ancient possible peoples is that we assume is the statement that they understood precession of the equinoxes. And I need to look again at,
which is crazy.
I need to look again at what the evidence for the fact that they knew precession existed. Because sometimes it's like there's 42 statues in this temple, and 42 is one of the subdivisions of the precession of the equinox. Therefore, they knew about precession of the equinox. And I'm like, that's not. You can't just say that's a big leap to say that because of the number of statues they knew about this huge thousands of 42. What's the thousand? I forget the amount of time precession of the equinoxes is, but. I need to look that up. But if they did, and if that is true, that's insane. And that they incorporated that into calendars. That awareness of time scale is insane. And the perception you would have about life and the day would be crazy. We've sidetracked, but
we're getting off topic for sure.
This stuff hurts. This stuff hurts my brain.
My trinity of time. There's chronological time that gets measured by our system of seconds, hours,
super good Swiss watches that are
exactly. And then there's the physical time that goes along with the expansion of the universe and the fact that you get old and life tends to decay.
The arrow of time.
Yeah. And then there's the subjective time. Like it's not the same hour when you're waiting in a dentist than when you're making love to your beautiful loved one.
Okay.
Absolutely not the same timing. It
Also,
may
the
feel
relativity
like
of
one
time.
hour is, yeah.
Not just the relativity of perceptual time, but the relativity of physical time, like the Einstein, the guy going
Right.
supersonic
So
with the clock. The clock is going slower than the person on the Earth.
if you're moving faster, time is happening
Slower.
slower.
Yes.
Mm.
So
We were talking about chronological time,
we were
right?
talking about chronological time, and I was trying to wrap my head around the differences between making up numbers and the actual real existence of time, and how much of that we invented and how much of that is inherent in the universe. And
Mm.
how accurate our numbers are, how accurate that is, and if that's subjective, and if the symbols we use have any meaning for those symbols, not necessarily in the shapes, but in ending at 9 and then starting up at 1 and 0. Is that way of bidding
Yeah.
time, is that something that is functional and purposeful and accurate and real, or is that a subjective thing that we decided to do because it made organizing time easier for ourselves and we lost the camera?
We're changing battery as we speak.
I think those are the questions that I have that I don't think we'd be able to answer, and maybe they're too abstract, and maybe this is an idiotic conversation.
It's fun. That's what I'm saying. It's fun to explore a not so defined idea or topic because it's crazy.
Yeah,
And we're daring to come up with different
we're daring. We're so brave.
understanding. We're so brave to talk about this right now.
Uh, you're gonna have to think about this for a good year.
But just to maybe come back to the main thing. If our chronological measuring of time is not on point, then that's just okay. I'm phrasing it another way
It's okay.
If the symbols and the words we came up with to measure time and to make it chronological, if we can change the language and the symbols, do we change the perception of time itself for ourselves? So
I see what you're saying.
Are we experiencing time this way because our presuppositions and already built up understanding of things? Let's say if we this kind of came up in the Joe Rogan Elon Musk interview. If we suddenly discover that we actually are in a simulation, we would be right now, not you, Vancouver, me, Mexico City. We would be on a hard drive somewhere. That's the actual time and place that we would be in. And so our actual perception of time and space will completely be shattered.
I get what you're saying. There's so much there to unpack. First of all, I don't think it'd be a hard drive. I don't think we'd use hard drives anymore. But I get the point. We would be in like a singular location and perceived to be another location at the same time. The same way that like virtual reality, you could put on a headset and you'd be somewhere else than you are.
Perception is the key thing in here.
Yeah. So I think that it's true that we've bidded time and that influences our perception of time. Like if you are away from a city, away from a clock, away from all that stuff, then your immediate environment and the tasks that you're doing have a larger impact, I think, on your perception of time because you're not always relating to it. You're not always looking at a clock. The less you look at it, the more your time is influenced by the activity you're doing, the location you're in, the surroundings you are in, and what you're doing. And I think that that is an interesting phenomena. And I totally agree that naming something changes your perception. I think that is a huge thing that we don't fully understand in the way that the human psyche acts and responds to things and phenomenons in the universe. And that the Radiolab about color, they talked about a place in, I believe it was somewhere in Africa. That's such a small place. I don't know any more details. But there was a place where they didn't have individual names for the color green and blue, and everything that was green and blue was the same thing. And if you showed them a picture of green,
that's an actual thing. I've never heard this.
Yeah, and if you showed them something that's green next to something that's blue, they'd be like, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And their actual perception of those two colors was limited because they didn't have a name for the difference. In their whole life, they weren't going, that's different to that.
Just like,
that's different to that. And then noticing it, and your ability to notice the difference grows as you bit and name something. So I think, of course, we have a massive unknown relationship to time and the way that it influences our perception of the world and chronological time.
So why did we stop at 9?
I don't know. Is there a relation between 9 and time?
I think so.
90 minutes? An hour and a half?
Yeah.
90 seconds?
No, but I mean,
60.
Why?
60. It should stop at 6.
The unit is 60.
We should have stopped at 6.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11 up to 16, and then 20.
Yeah.
Nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
that would make
6.
everything so much easier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 6. No, 1,
Actually,
0.
you only need 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because if you add 1 and 2, you get 3. And then 3 plus 4, that's 10.
3 plus 4 is not 10.
3. I'm sorry. If you, what am I don't even know how to add up basic numbers.
I wish I agreed with you, and then we talked for 10 minutes about how true that is.
You only need. I'm gonna repeat this whole thing. In my head it makes sense. You only need 1 through 4, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10.
I see.
And then you have the whole thing.
Right. So there's different ways that we could have less shapes and then do the same amount of math. And that's why I'm saying you could also have more shapes and do the same amount of math. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe I need to talk to somebody who.
We need an expert in this thing. It would be fun if we kind of do our own wormhole
research
dive, and bring it up again in some future cast.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's a big one, though.
It's extremely funny. Yeah,
it is funny, but it's because thinking about it makes you sound so dumb.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense to question it.
But you never explore it. You don't.
Yeah.
You hear so much like, oh, time is subjective, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's so true. Or like, we made up time. Time is a human invention. You're like, yeah, true, so true. But it hurts to really get into it.
It hurts because it's confused.
And the number thing hurts me.
What? Why?
Yeah, trying to figure out what did we uncover? What in numbers is profound and what in numbers is not profound? And and is stopping at 9 arbitrary or not? And are deep like relative things about the universe that you can do with numbers? Is that is that just a different way of saying the same thing, and then we think it's profound by just like translating reality into another language and then going, that's so profound, like looking at the world, say the world is English, and then through all this math we turn it into Spanish and go, they're saying the same thing, and then you go, wow, that's so profound, like this numbers is a representation of the universe, wow, that's so beautiful and profound. It's like, okay, you're just translating something into a different language. That's not profound at all. That's just
Yeah.
making up something that is that looks the same as this, and then it's like, that's not I don't know. That's what I want to know. What's profound in numbers? Why is it profound?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you can start off with sort of like a dumb questioning of things. But it's just so that you get a better understanding. So through the questioning, even though the questioning may be as dumb as like, why did we stop at 9? Why 10 follows 9? Why isn't there another single digit?
Yeah.
So that 11 would be like the unit,
This
right?
is a conspiracy.
Or anything.
Why do we stop at 9? Why do we stop at 9? People are using 9 to control us, bro. I'm kidding.
Wow.
That was me.
I know.
That was me pretending like 5 weeks from now I've gone so far down a number wormhole that I'm like,
Dude,
conspiracy about numbers.
First time that happened to me, I really wanted to understand out of my extreme it's much better.
It's getting sunnier every time I change my aperture.
I really wanted to understand why people could ask your date of birth and figure out shit about you. And why do people exercise a profession out of that?
Oh,
and why do people buy into that so that they go and have a session with someone, they're going to ask their date of birth, and out of that date of birth you can sum up a mapping of that person.
Yeah.
I could argue for why it would work and why it's all bullshit. I have both of them in my
I
head.
would like to do a session where we try to rationalize astrology. That would be very fun.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, just as a quick, it's not a new observation, but it's just the vagueness of the things and being able to apply to anybody's life and looking for connections to your life and specifics. You add the specifics to the vagueness, and then it seems more profound because you're the one finding specifics for the vagueness.
Yeah. And if you come up with those specifics, they're definitely profound.
Right.
Yeah. Like if you came up with them,
yeah,
it's like a big discovery, even if you're 100% wrong.
Yeah.
So also the
but I don't
perception of
necessarily
what's
want to get
profound and what isn't.
into that right now, but
It's a whole other thing. I'm feeling like a neutralization of talkative energy.
okay, we can slow down and shut it down here. I like that topic though. It's a very
Yeah.
when I turn my aperture down, it gets dark outside.
It's playing tricks on you.
And when I open it, it gets sunny.
No, but right now it's good. You're actually well.
It's quite dark. I like it a little hot. That's just the way that I like it. I like heat. I like sun. It's illumination of the mind.
You can't like overexposed image.
I do. I do like it. You can't tell me what I like.
I'm against that. I can.
You can't.
Numbers are crazy. And I hope we get more into this thing from a different perspective, a less biased perspective. Maybe.
I don't think we've been very biased. I think we've been
Okay.
very,
Nice.
yeah, I think I'm very open to any and all rational lines of thought, whether or not the conclusion is crazy or not.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've always wanted to get into numbers and really think about it and be open to it. Um, and I've done some going through kind of the alchemical symbolism of numbers. And I'd like to do that more. And I'd also like to get into the sacred geometry aspect of numbers, which is related to the alchemy stuff. But it's less about like the archetypes and more about the math in the sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is more about the math and the relation to physical phenomena in the world. And then the like alchemy esoteric stuff is more about the symbolism and the archetype and the like meaning behind it based on story and stuff like that. So those are, I guess, two angles, but both's very interesting, and I'm gonna get into that.
I know you want to. And actually, dude, this might be a crazy improvisation, but I want to show you something. I have a book of yours at home.
Mm-hmm.
This is yours.
Nice. Ruler and compass.
I know you want to get into that.
Nice. It's like a
maybe that was
drawing.
overexposed and out of focus.
I saw that.
But
That's
that.
awesome. It's like
Maybe
an
I want to get into that.
instructional.
Yeah, like how
Yeah.
to start from zero and how to understand sacred geometry from drawing it.
Nice.
So you
Yeah.
mentioned like a month ago, you mentioned you wanted to get into that, and I was about to order like 5 books from Amazon, and I saw that and I was like, I'm getting this
Awesome,
from my
bro.
friend Ian Belcher.
Hey, that is so awesome, bro. I'm really excited to get into it. I would also like to share the title. This is going to be on the stream because it's overlaying the Skype, but I'll move it over. I'll just name another title that we can explore in combination with that, and it is
This is actually really simple and simplified in that way.
if we want to. I think that's going to be a beautiful practical start. The supplementary, more esoteric leaning that can supplement is A Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe. And it is mathematical archetypes of nature, art, and science. And that can be a supplementary resource.
Dude, nice.
I'm excited. Those two resources will be...
It's spot on. The mathematical archetypes of nature, art, and science. Dude.
And then that's going to be awesome, bro. All right.
Awesome. Are we wrapping this up?
I think we're wrapping this up. We're hip-hopping this up.
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you.
Thank you.
This was a great great talk, and I would like to personally, I mean, it's quite a lot. I'd like to try to do 3 this week, just psychologically to make up for last week, if possible. And if not, that's no problem. I'll just deal with the self-reflective notion that I feel like I need to make up for last week, and then work on that as something I need to work on.
Yeah, I'd say let's if we do 3 this week, let's not making out of missing out on last week.
I agree. That's a good way to look at it.
It's just because we wanted to, and it happened.
Yes.
But it was a great talk. I had fun, a lot of fun, and I really appreciate the time.
I appreciate the time, and thank you. And we will see you next time. We will end
next
this,
time.
and goodbye, and see you
And see you soon.
And
goodbye.
Goodbye.